All right. Somebody comes from Yerushalmi. All right. Halacha ches. Hey, that's on base of an album. Tomorrow night we finish the Masechta, by the way. Do Masechta on near Wednesday, Yerushalmi. Talking. Ilon True Mesi Valoritz. A tree which is extending over the ground. Now, in the Bavli Lush is Mesa with the Chaf here, it's Mesa with the base. Same idea. The tree is extending over the ground. The foliage is not more than 3 feet from the ground. Metalli and carry under the entire tree. Why? Because the entire tree is considered to be like one room. The roots which are more than 3 feet off the ground, you may not sit on them. Because that's like using a tree on Shabbos. Whatever's within 3 feet of the ground is like the ground. Whatever's more than 3 feet off the ground is already considered to be part and parcel of the tree. You may not sit on that on Shabbos. Hadelas Shiva Mukta. If you have a door in a mukta is like a backyard which serves as to storage. Okay, so the doors there, they weren't real doors. They were like clumps of wood which sat on the ground, really, and they didn't really have a hinge on which they turned, and they weren't lifted off the ground at all. So they're kind of quasi doors. Vachadokim is like thorns, shevapirts, which you use in order to block a breach in your wall. It's like forerunner barbed wire. Umachzelis, and if you have a blanket of some sort, a mat which is serving in lieu of a door that has no hinge and it's not hanging, so you can't use them to lock unless they were lifted up a little bit from the ground. They're lying on the ground, again, since they have no hinge, they don't really look like a door. It's considered to be, if you take it away and put it back like binyan, like you're making a door to begin with. So therefore you can't use them on Shabbos. Okay, getting back to the case of the tree. You can't have more than a base of sign under the tree because this is called a dira shalukaf ladira, a carp of shalukaf ladira. Right? You have an area which, of course, is surrounded, but it's not surrounded for the purpose of dwelling. People don't dwell in trees, right? So therefore, under trees. So therefore, if it's more than a base of sign under the tree, of course, under one tree, it's difficult to conceive of that. But if you have a series of trees, then you conceive of that, right? Like in a grove. So you can't carry in if it's more than a base or a sign. Okay? And it can't have walls which are 10 tefachim high. Now nobody understands what this line means. Everybody tries to fiddle with it, change it. But I don't understand what's so difficult. I think it's pashut. I think lo yem mechitzos kavos asara means you can carry under the tree or under the grove unless there's a wall of 10 tefachim. If there's a wall of 10 tefachim in the middle, let's say you have a grove of trees, and there's a fence which runs in the middle, you can't carry from side to side of the fence. Don't think just because it's one grove and one awning you can carry from one side of the fence to another. No. If you have a fence under the tree, that interrupts. Then the next yard over is not considered to be part and parcel of this yard. And in order to carry over the fence, you'd have to make a regular eruv. You can't just carry it from one side to the other. That's what I think the line means, okay? There can't be a fence of 10 tefachim running underneath the tree and cutting one half of it from the other half. Lo yipirtz yosem yaser. In the foliage itself, there can't be any breaks of more than 10 amos. Right. Lo yipirtz, there wouldn't be any openings. That's right. Lo yipirtz yosem yaser. There shouldn't be any breaks in the foliage which are more than 10 amos. Of course, that's regular halacha. Also, there can't be like a mavli mefulish running underneath the tree. That there be a path which is open on one end and coming out the other end, in which case you need a turas hapesach or a lechi or something like that in order to fix it up. Rabbi Yaakov Shem Rav said, Asur, now it's major typo here, because it's Asur Nissa the Rabbanan, not Nissa the Raisa. Asur Ladush, not Litlosh. Ladush Shorshe Zmora B'Shabbos. You're not allowed to press, to step on the shloshim of the roots of a branch on Shabbos. Now, it says the Gemara, he Shorshe Elon, he Shorshe Kruv. Why is that? Because the roots of a tree are like the roots of a cabbage. I forgot exactly what it means by that. 1 second. What? Yeah, so he's short shiloni. It's just a statement. It's the same thing. Even if it's not a tree, if it's a cabbage, anything which grows out of the ground, even if it's not a tree, even if it's a vegetable, squash or a cabbage, you can't use it on Shabbos. Ladush means to sit on it, not to step on it. Means to sit on it, pressuring it. So you can't do that. Big Vorin Shlosha. But only if the tree or the cabbage or the watermelon, whatever you're sitting on, is more than 3 tefachim off the ground. If it's less. Yeah, but he hasn't changed the girsa to Ladush.
He does?
No. So we have to ignore him. Yeah. Today Moshe does, everybody else does. So Lieberman brings down that it's Kitzvayat also Ladush. Shoyim Kitzvayat. So the Gemara itself, the Sham itself, elsewhere also says Ladush. So but if it's less than 3 from the ground, it's like the ground. Of course, the nafkamina, the most obvious nafkamina is a tree stump. The tree stump is more 3 tefachim off the ground. Now it's to sit on Shabbos because it's using a tree, even though it's dead. It's still considered to be a tree. It has to be within 3 tefachim of the ground in order to be allowed to sit on it on Shabbos. Okay, a log, fallen log. Not fallen. Scratch it. A log is already severed from the ground. Take that back. Masnisim b'shein sham. Armish is talking about where there is ein lem tzirin. Armish should say now to put the door back is where there are no hinges. Avesh lem tif, they have hinges. Hadahi ditani. That's what we learned. Deles, it says goderes, but it should be goreres. A door which could be dragged. Marcelis goreres, a match could be dragged. Kniklin, another type of door. It's made out of a launderer's vessel. The launderer's vessel is like something which has many holes in it, like a sieve, so you can apply a shower head. Okay, so somehow, don't ask me why. Somehow they used to use these shower heads as doors. I don't know. I guess they were large in the summer when they needed screen doors. So this is a screen door. So as long as it's gorer, as long as it had what? It could be. Yeah. But she's more a door. You're right. But the Pnei Moshe says clean menukov. But in any event, the lav dafka, I don't know. I'm not sure if we even know for sure what it is. So B'Sev no b'Shabbos, you can open it and close on Shabbos. Ve'itzarch l'mar Yontif goes out saying Yontif again because they have hinges. Also a mat which is tied and dangling off the ground. It's not dragging on the ground. B'Shabbos posech v'noah. B'Shabbos posech v'noah. B'Shabbos not open close on Shabbos. Ve'itzarch l'mar Yontif goes out saying let's do that in Yontif as well. Okay, so as long as they're hinges, it's okay. Now, in order, the pictures here are very helpful. It's a little bit complicated unless you see the pictures. Once you see the pictures, they're pretty easy. Means this case. Guy Sam he's extending his hand out the door, out the window. In order to take a key and to open up the door. Right? Says the Shusayachid he's in. He's saying to Shusarabim is now allowed to take the key because they're afraid. Where's the key going to end up? Shusayachid is going to be motive from Shusayachid to Shusarabim to Shusayachid. That might be okay, but all their doors open to the inside. I don't know what the halacha will be in that case. Yeah, we're going to see another case, but not this. Not where the door opens in. Out. He shouldn't stand that's this case over here. He shouldn't stand B'Shusa Rabim. It's a where is it? B'shusa Rabim Ivta B'shusa Yochid. Okay, so here you stand B'shusa Rabim and open a lock which is in B'shusa Yochid, because the lock is in the door. The door is B'shusa Yochid. The key is also B'shusa Yochid. It's above the house, right? So you can't open that up. Elkin also Mechitza Gava Asar Tvachim. Now the picture here, the way the picture's drawn, the Perish Chai for the Bavli, is that's going on the safe for the Mishnah, right? So in the case where you're opening in Rishus HaYochid, right? And you're standing with Rishus HaRabim, opening a door which is entering Rishus HaYochid. In fact, the way the Yerushalmi interpreted a few blot ago, though, this condition is going on the Sefer. That in this case over here, the guy standing inside and wants to open on the outside, so Rishus HaYochid wants to open in Rishus HaRabim, and that's where the key is. So then he needs this door, right? There's no this door. There's no real picture of that, but again, he has to make the wall around himself, around where he's going to open the door. So, Divrei Meir is Zohar Meir's opinion. Amrullah said, no, Reb Meir, you're much too machmir. Ma'isa b'shuk shel batom yishab Yerushalayim is ma'isa in the shuk in Yerushalayim shu no'alim. They used to lock the door. Nichim as mafteach, and they used to put the key b'chalon shel gavi Pesach in the window, which was on top of the opening. So he has a picture of that over here. It's kind of chalon shel gavi Pesach, something like this. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it was more like this, the chalon. Anyway, they put in a chalon, right? Oh yeah, here it is. That's right. Windowsill, right? They put it on the chalon shel gabi Pesach, and they didn't require any extra walls. Rabbi Yosef Shuk Shot Samar Haya, it was the woolmaker's marketplace. Don't ask me why it makes a difference. I guess it's historical nafkamina. Now, Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem and Rabbi China B'Shem Rav Kana said, "Ein halacha Rabbi Yehuda." Problem is, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't appear in our Mishnah. So where's this Rabbi Yehuda from? So the Carbonator writes that this means halacha is like Rabbanim, but like Rabbi Meir. The Moshe says the exact opposite. He changes the girsa, right? The changes the girsa to Ein halacha Kid Rabbi Meir, which means halacha is like Rabbanim, right? So nobody knows exactly what to do with this line. All right, big deal. Rabbi Abba Bar Papi Boy. Rabbi Abba Papa asks the following question: Lema here means not lama, not why, but lema means for what, under what circumstances, like Mosai. Lema over Raimeir Sarkoiso. When Raimeir consider the wall to be broken meaning, remember we had the whole concept of Raimeir by chokim lahashlim. In other words, if you have already part of a hole, you can expand that hole by halachic imagery. When did Raimeir say that? Did he say it when kigamum or kinaku, which says binaku, but should be kinaku? Did he say when? Actually, it should both be bays. I think I made a mistake in my own Gemara here. Is it bigamum or binaku? Now, what does gamu mean? This is all based on Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Gamu means that there's actually, at some point in the hole, a cavity of 4x4 tvachim. So there is an area in the hole which is already Rishus HaYochid. In that case, as a mayor say, we look at the rest of the hole as if it's also Rishus HaYochid. Or is it even benakuf? Meaning there's nowhere in the hole 4x4 tvachim. Just a hole. Nonetheless, we see it as if it has 4x4 tvachim. Now, l'may nafkamina, who cares? Well, the question is what the status of a lock is. If a lock is a nakuf, it's not gamu. A lock doesn't have the dimensions of 4x4 in of itself. It's simply a hole in the door. So it's simply a hole in the door. Does it have the status of Rishus HaYochid? Because Raimeir says chokim lahashlim by nakuf, or is it not have Rishus HaYochid? Because Raimeir only says chokim lahashlim by gamu, where somewhere in the hole is already a dimensions of 4x4. Is that clear what he's asking? Is it clear?
So obviously the hole doesn't have to come all the way through the door.
It does. But it's a very small hole. It goes from side to side, but it's a small hole. There's no 4x4 anywhere in it. So what's its status? Now, I want to tell you, this is completely not like the Bavli, or rather not like Rashi and the Bavli. Because Rashi and Bavli learns that we're talking about a case like this. The lock is Rishus HaYachid, because look at that lock. It's the mother of all locks. The lock itself is 4x4 Tvachim, at a height of 10 Tvachim. That's how he learns that the lock becomes Rishus here's a bigger one. That's how he learns that the lock itself becomes Rishus HaYachid. And that's how he teaches up the Bavli. Yerushalmi is not learning that way. Yerushalmi is asking, is the lock Rishus HaYachid, or is the lock a Makom P'tur? If Rabbi Meir holds that we only say Chokim Lashlim by Gomum, where the hole already on one side is expanded 4x4, we expand the other side of that hole. So then a lock is a Makom P'tur. If you hold that Rabbi Meir said his halacha even by Nakuf, then this lock might well be Rishus HaYachid. Okay? Because after all, it goes through and through into Rishus HaYachid. So far, so good? So it says Gemara, In Tamar Begamum, if you're going to say, now this is a question Gemara asks, and never really going to properly answer. It will, but not well. In Tamar Begamum, if you're going to say it's only Begamum, Afilu Malami Asor Mutter, even if the lock is above 10 Tvachim, is the lock a Rishus HaYachid? No, because it doesn't have dimensions of Rishus HaYachid. It's just a hole in the wall. And don't say Chokim Lashlim a hole in the wall. So it makes no difference where the lock is. The lock is a Makom P'tur. It should be mutter regardless to open the door, right? Because you're just taking a lock from Rishus HaRabim, put in Makom P'tur. What's the problem ever? In Tamar, if you're going to say B'namuch, Tamar B'nakuf, that even where there's just a hole, it's considered to be a case that we can say Chokim Lashlim. So I feel a matter asur. Even though it's below 10 Tvachim, it's still asur. Because Rabbi side, the inside of this wall is what? Rishus HaYachid. If you say Chokim Lashlim even on a hole, that means that the hole is an offshoot of the inside of the wall. The inside of the wall is Rishus HaYachid. The hole now also becomes Rishus HaYachid. Is that clear? Only the surface on the outside, that's right. Because we only say Chokim Lashlim in Rishus HaYachid, never Rishus HaRabim. So it becomes, if you say Chokim Lashlim even on a Nakuf, so this hole, no matter where it is on the wall, since on the inside of the wall is Rishus HaYachid, this now becomes an extension of that Rishus HaYachid. If you don't say, and vice versa, if you don't say Kigamum, or if the by Kinokov, you only say Chokim Lashlim by Kigamum, then even if it's above 10 Tvachim, well, true, above 10 Tvachim is Rishus HaYachid, but you need 4x4 Tvachim, and you don't have 4x4 Tvachim. So it should always be mutter to put a key into the keel, right? So it's a very good question. So as Gemara tries to bring a braya for it, and ultimately the Gemara is going to fall flat on this one. Pesach Ginos, Sheish Len Beishar Mivnim. Now here, this is a picture which he has here. Pesach Ginos, you have an obi to a Gino, a garden. And it has the gatehouse on the inside. It has a gatehouse on the inside. So, place Seich V'Noim Mivnim, you're going to use the keys inside the gatehouse on the inside. What if the gatehouse is on the outside? Bibachutz, if the gatehouse is on the outside, I don't see a picture of that. But if the gatehouse is on the outside of the wall, the opposite picture, then posech min b'chutz, you can open and close on the outside. Mikan and mikan, if there's a gatehouse on both sides, posech min mikan mikan, you can open and close on both sides. Lo mikan v'lo mikan, if there's no gatehouse on either side, then you got source. What do? Harei ze noitos mafteach, you'll take the key. Uposech. Now the key has got to be somewhere accessible. Accessible means it's got to be not in the Rishus HaRabim. Oh, this is the picture. Here's the Beishar Meuchutz. Just depends where you put the word Rishus HaRabim. Where Rishus HaRabim? Here's the Beishar on the inside because here's the Rishus HaRabim. Here's the Beishar on the outside because the Rishus HaRabim is the outside. Now you have to have the key accessible. If there's no Beishar, such as this picture, no Beishar at all. So in that case, you have to have the key accessible, and you take the key, and you open up. I'm sorry. Lo mikan v'lo mikan. Harei ze notel soter posech v'noel you go open and close. No, you may not let the key enter the gino. You don't have a beishar. What do? You take the key from wherever it is, let's say the windowsill. You open the door, you unlock it, you have to put the key back. You can't let the key enter the building. Why can't you or the structure? Why? Because then the key would be in essence entering from Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaYachid. It's no good. You can't do that, right? All you can do is take the key, open the door, unlock it, meaning, and put the key back up on top, wherever you were keeping it, right? When is this true? And here, no gears to change yet. If you hold Chaykim Lahashlim by Naku, yes, right, and that will be the point which we'll discuss. Okay, obviously we don't say Chaykim Lahashlim by Naku, right? Very good, because you're exactly your point. Because otherwise, putting the key into lock would be active putting Rishus HaYachid, right? When is this a problem? Only when the lock is above 10 tefachim. But if the key was below 10 tefachim, if the lock was below 10 tefachim, then you're even allowed to take the key from a carmelis. Iskupa is a threshold, and that's a carmelis. That's down here. You don't have to take the key from up here, from Rishus HaYachid, right? Actually, according to, you don't take it from Rishus HaYachid, you even take it from down here, which is a carmelis, and put it into the door. The door should be Rishus HaYachid. It's not. Why? Because it's Lamata Me'asora. It's below 10 tefachim. And since it's below 10 tefachim, it can't be Rishus HaYachid. Avlima Yamar Lamata Sar Tefachim, Harez Notos Atev Tocha Eskuv, Vosech V'Noel, V'Nicha V'Kom Adir Amer. V'Chachom Reim, Alo Pi Shamar Me'asor Tefachim. Chachom say, even though the lock is above 10 tefachim, take out to the rest of the words till the end of the line, everybody takes them out. Maybe Mafteach Me'erev Shabbos, even though the lock is above 10 tefachim, to bring a key from before Shabbos, and the Reb Chaim Kanievsky throws in here, put it on that skupa, v'poseach v'nichnas, you can open the door, go in, umetatlo b'toch habayis, and take it in your house, v'noel, lock the door, v'noslo b'chor l'mala min hamashkof, and put it in a hole above the threshold. That was an amazing concept. Everybody goes nuts over here. What's happened? The kilo is a Malkum tour. Kilo, obviously, the kilo is a Malkum tour. So they actually allow you to take from the Carmelis, the skupa, from the Carmelis, to the keyhole, to the Malkum to open the door, take the key out, and put the key again above the door on the windowsill, which is the Malkum tour. As long as, says the Gemara, if however this threshold, this windowsill on the inside, of course, we're already on the inside of the door. If this is more than 4x4 tvachim, then it's also because then you're actually putting down Rishus HaRabim. Shem mishtam sheshus l'shus derech b'rishus. Then it's just a yachid. I say Rishus HaRabim. I'm sorry. Then it's just a yachid, so you can't put it there because then you're going from the Carmelis to the Malkum Tur to Rishus HaYachid, and that's no good. Now the question you all ask is, but Rabbi Yid, when you took it, even if this is less than 4x4 tvachim, but you were taking it through Rishus HaYachid when you were putting it there, so that should be also in and of itself. So that they all go crazy. Reb Chaim Kanievsky goes crazy on that. He says, "Sorry, I don't understand the Gemara." But the truth is, I don't see why it's so difficult here either. It's a special head that they gave you in order to unlock your door. As long as you didn't put the key down, you didn't transgress an issur. They allowed you. Normally, you can't go midrabanan from a Carmelis or Rishus HaRabim through a Malkum Tur to Rishus HaYachid. But here, as long as you didn't put down Rishus HaYachid, you're allowed to take the key from the Carmelis through the Malkum Tur, through the Rishus HaYachid, and put it down in another Malkum Tur. As long as it doesn't end up in Rishus HaYachid. So I don't see what's so good for Allah. Okay? But L'maisa, We have here machlokas here between Rameir and Rabbanan. Let's recapitulate the machlokas outside. Rameir says, if the lock is above 10 tefachim, you can't take the key from the Carmelis and use it to unlock the door. You take it from wherever it was, open the door, put it back wherever it was, and that wherever it was has got to be Rishus HaYochid. If the lock is below 10 tefachim, then you can even take the key from a Carmelis. Put it in the lock. Still, you can't take it into Rishus HaYochid. You can't take it into your house. You have to put it back in the Carmelis. According to Rabbanan, if the lock is above 10 tefachim, then you have to. No, it doesn't matter. Regardless if the lock is above or below 10 tefachim, it's a mokum tur. You're allowed to take the key, even from a Carmelis, put in the keyhole, take it into your house, which Rameir never allowed, and then make sure it ends up in a mokum tur. Okay? Now, the thing is, the truth is, I think I understand Reb Chaim Kanievsky's question now. Because there's no such thing as a real mokum tur in Rishus HaYochid. Even if you put it on a windowsill which is less than 4x4 tvachim. L'maisa, it's inside the house. So you're inside the house, so what difference does it make? You put on a high windowsill. Still in the Rishus HaYochid. I think that's really his question. I don't know, unless somehow you pushed it back through the windowsill the other side. Something like that. Alright, but that's interesting. Alright, but now, going to the top of Sama Gimel Amud Aleph. Hadamara, this teaches us, Begamum Avila Rabbi Meir. Should be, not Rabbi Yehuda. Now, everybody goes crazy on this line here, too. They change it this way, that way. Chaim Kanievsky changes it to Pinakuf. L'maisa, whatever you do with the line, it's difficult. Any parish you say here, that is very difficult. Rav Meir contradicts himself. There's no way of understanding Rav Meir. Rav Meir on the one hand said, if the keel is above 10 tefachim, so it's Rishus HaYochid. If the keel is below 10 tefachim, it's a mokum tur. Miman Avshach. If you say chokim lahashlim, in both cases it should be Rishus HaYochid, because it enters into Rishus HaYochid, it pierces through and through. If you don't say chokim lahashlim, then in both cases it should be a mokum tur, because it doesn't go all the way through Rishus HaYochid. So it's very difficult. What exactly you were trying? The Meir seems to be inherently contradictory. So the way to learn this line, I think, is we have to assume the more likely, the more reasonable explanation is to say that Meir really holds that you only say chokim lashim by gomu, and that's why when it's below 10 tefachim, it's a mokum tur, right? Alright, so above 10 tefachim it's supposed to be mokum tur. No, there Meir made a gzeira. It looks like Rishus HaYochid. It's not a real Rishus HaYochid, right? Because a real Rishus HaYochid would require us to say chokim lahashlim. And you can't say chokim lahashlim because it's only a hole. It's not kigamu. But nonetheless, we can understand that it's like a Marisayin. That when the keel is more than 10 tefachim off the ground, so it looks to people like it's Rishus HaYochid. And that's why Meir said, if the keel, it doesn't really matter, Mikradin, whether the keel is below or above, because I only say chokim lashim by gomum, where at some point the hole widens out, and this hole never widens out. And really both should be a mokum tur. However, where the keel is below 10 tefachim, it looks much more like a mokum tur because it's low. And therefore I allow you to actually take the key from a Carmelis, open it up, and then put it back in the Carmelis. Where it's above 10 tefachim, even though according to the strict letter of the law, it's still considered to be a mokum tur, because they don't say chokim lahashlim on kinakuf. Nonetheless, since it looks to people like Rishus HaYochid, because above 10 tefachim, that's why I answer it. Okay? That's how I think you have to learn the Gemara. Again, it's very difficult. That's why everybody goes crazy here, because Rav Meir is mutually contradictory. Because if it works, it should work across the board. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work across the board. Like Rav Havar Puppy's original question. We never fully resolved it. And this line here is unintelligible because how can you have resolved it? So that's what I think, though, in order to explain as best as possible, that's what I think the line is coming to say. Okay, that's a hard part for today. I understand on the inside I need a beis shar. If you want to open on the inside of a gino, so it says in the beis shar, I understand what the beis shar does. It unites all the people of the gino together. Right? However, you said also on the outside you need a beis shar. What good does a beis shar do on the outside? Who's using the beis shar if it's on the outside? Not just the bnei gino. Who else is using it? What? No, it's not a beis shar for a shomer. The bnei rishus harabim. So how can the beis shar work? If it's a private beis shar, so it means it's only for the people of the gino. It's like their eruv, even though they don't have an eruv. It's a gino. I don't even know if there are any houses there. But even it's a place to stand and open the door. Then it's prati. So the members of the gino. So that's rishus achas mishtameshes. But if you have the beis shar and the rishus harabim, so it's for the people in the gino and for the people who come from all over the world. They can all use it. It's in the public thoroughfare. The public, it's like a bus shelter. The question is whether it's sufficient symbolism if it's mishtamish tu shtei rishuyos. If two rishuyos can use it, it's a question of sufficient symbolism. The answer is it is, because the Brisa says it is, but Yerushalmi doesn't understand why, and it doesn't answer the question. This leaves it difficult. Obviously, you're right. At some point, well, since it's symbolic, we sweep it under the rug. Right? Okay, I'm asking, but that's what the Yerushalmi is bothered by. Okay. Naga, again, there are other pshatim in this line, but that seems to be the best pshat. Naga sheish brosho klustela. Okay, once we have the Perush Chaya, might as well take advantage of it. You have a bolt which you use to close the door, which has got a head on it. Klustera is the head of the peg. So that's definitely a keli. If you're allowed to use it to lock your door, because it's not mechsei kibinyan. Okay? Oh, it's a machlokas, sorry, it's not definitely. Rebbe Lezer says you can't use it. Why? Because it looks like binyan if it went into the threshold. Rabbi Yossi Matir. Amar Rabbi Lezer said, how can you say it's mutter? Ma'aseh shel beis haknesses b'Tveria, it's a ma'aseh with the shul in Tveria. Shayu nogim bo heta, they permitted it. Ad shemaran Gamliel v'eskenim. Until around Gamliel, the elders came. V'aslam, they said it's forbidden. Rabbi Yossi Omer, no! You got the story wrong! Isra Yunogim Ba, they thought it was Hosser. Bara Gamliel v'eskenim v'tirulan. Gamliel v'eskenim saying it said it's mutter. You misunderstood. Okay, Nagar HaNigror. If you have a Nagar HaNigror, say a Nagar HaNigror is like this. It dangles on the ground. Nagar HaNigror. So Nagar HaNigror, Nolim Bo B'Mikdash, you can use it in the Beis HaMikdash, Avalo B'Mdina, but not outside the Beis HaMikdash. V'Amunach, if it's mamish lying on the ground, actually Nigror is this one. Munach is this one, lying on the ground. V'Amunach kan b'kan osur. Rabbi Omer Amunach b'Mikdash, the Munach, like this, you use it in the Beis HaMikdash, not on the Medina. HaNigra, one which is dragging like this, that you can use even in the Medina, even outside the Beis HaMikdash. Again, this is where it doesn't have a head at the top. If it has a head at the top, it's much better. That was the subject of the ratio. This is where there's no head, so it looks much less like a removable peg and more like actually adding onto the door. So the lock with this one is much more chomer. It actually has to be tied on, and perhaps even dangling. Rabbi Yossi said, he who allows the nagar sheish lo glustra, the peg with a head, he says, Osa nagar tafel glustra, he regards the peg as being subordinate to the head. Kediva Yossi, the person who forbids this, Osa glustra tafel nagar, he regards the head as being subordinate to the peg. Ezu nagar, what is a valid nagar, a valid peg which you can use to lock your door? Amar, I'm going to say Rabbi Yochanan. I don't know actually who this is. Let's say it's Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah, Rabbi Moshe says Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, kosher avo b'sheino toli. It has to be tied on, even though it's not dangling. That's good enough. And Rabbi Yochanan said, Mashcheni chilfei. Chilfei, which is known in the Bible as ilfa. Drag me, verani shel beis Rabbi, kosher avo b'sheino toli. He showed me Rabbi's house. They used the nagar to lock the door, which is tied on and not dangling. So we see that that's good enough. Rabbi Yochanan said, Asya de chida kedacha. The solitary opinion in our Mishnah. There was Rabbi Yehuda who allowed in our Mishnah the use of a nagar which is lying on the ground. That's Kastam Tamon. That's like the Stam Mishnah Masechta Shabbos. No, the Chidodach is the Machmer. No, Rabbi Yehuda. No, yeah, Rabbi Yehuda here who says Nigra is mutar outside Beis Hamikdash, that this is okay. That's the Stam Mishnah Masechta Shabbos. It allows that as well. Okay, and at the Yechidah Tamon, the solitary opinion over there, which answers that is the Rabbanan over here. That's the Stam Mishnah the Stam Mishnah here answers that. It says it has to be dangling off the ground, it can't be dragging on the ground in any way, shape, or form. Okay, Rabbi Yossi boy mikumi Rabbi Yirmiyah. Hey, Chavdinuvda. Rabbi Yossi asked Rabbi Yirmiyah, Lamai Sadri Paskin. Armalais said, Mimadar Rabbi Yossi, that which Rabbi Yossi said, Mashcheni Chilfai, Ilfa drag me, Ferrani Shabbat Rabbi Kosha Abishaino Toli, and showed me the house of Rabbi, it was tied on, even though it wasn't dangling. Hadam Rak Rabbi Yehuda Avdin. So we see the Rabbi Yehuda that where it's Nigra, it's okay. Says the Gemara, yes, but Ache Kosher Badelis. It's got to be tied onto the door. I guess not onto the to the wall, but onto the door. It's tied onto the door, so that's okay. Okay? Rabbi Yana Chamuid Rabbi Yami. Rabbi Yana saw that in the house of Rabbi Yami, actually a kosher bedelis, they were required to be tied onto the door, with a rope which could hold it up. Meaning you could pull it up by that rope. It was a strong rope, as opposed to Nagra Hadar Rabbi Elazar. That Nagra in the house of Rabbi Elazar, Katar Begemi. They used to, it was tied on with a piece of string, which was just symbolic. And that, they held is not good enough. No, it's a piece of string. You really couldn't use it to hold up the Nagar. Wasn't strong enough. It was just to be Yoitzi Zayin Naloch of tied on. That they held was insufficient. Nishmat, if it's no longer connected at all, then of course also it's forbidden. Nikmaz, what if the rope extended, it's mamish lying on the ground? Originally it was like this. It dangled. And then the rope extended, so now it's lying on the ground. That's nikmaz. So Rabbi Yaakov Barachah B'Shem Rabbanan said, Midadeu B'Rosh Eitz, if you can't really move it then the normal way, but you do it with a shinui. Like flick it a little bit with the top of your fingers. Don't grab it in your hand. Rabbi Rav said, hello Rabbi Yossi, but hello Rabbi Yossi wasn't mentioned in our Mishnah either. This has nothing to do with our Masechta. It's got in here so repetitiously from Masechta Shabbos. Has to do with which types of, when you can cover a garbage can which is built into the ground. And that kisui of that keli has to have a handle on it. And otherwise you can't cover your built-in garbage can. It's nothing to do with our Gemara.
Even if the rope is lying on the ground, it's still connected to the door. So why are you making such a distinction between the two?
Because it looks much more like Boina.
Yeah, but it's still, you see the rope hanging.
As we said, symbolic ropes are not good enough. It's got to be a real rope which is holding up. It doesn't matter if it's a heavy rope, but once it's on the ground, to put it back in place is like Bona. Here, it's quasi in place. Yeah. It's all judgment calls. Yeah. Right, it's all the Rabbanon, so it's all judgment calls. Okay? Marzir in Sir. Avatachton Bamikdash. Now, in the old days, hinges, they used to look like this, right? The hinges would be, I don't know if he has a good picture of a door here, but the hinges here, you see, the hinges would be like toys have nowadays, right? So it used to come off the side, I'm making myself clear. They didn't have hinges like we have hinges. Hinges were protrusions on the door on the top and bottom, which fit into holes in the frame. Okay? So now, this mission over here is talking about not if a door came out of the ground. Then Chas was showing me how to put it back on Shabbos Chayv Chatas. So over here, the door of a movable closet or a box. So if the Tzira Tachto came out, the lower hinge, so you put it back in place for a mikdash. Avalon medina, but not in the base in the outside the base of mikdash. Elion, if the top hinge came out of its slot, so then it looks much like boneh. Kamakan also, it's even also midrabon in the base of mikdash. Even though normally say ain't shvus by mikdash, here the Gemara pointed out, we hear it say yesh shvus by mikdash. Marzir etir by mikdash. When it's allowed to put back a bandage which has fallen off in the base of mikdash. Avalom did, but not in the outside the base of mikdash. In betchila, and if it's a new bandage, kan v'kan also, it's also both in and outside the base of mikdash. Why is that? Because when you put on a bandage, you may transgress mimarech, because their bandages were made. Rabbi Yeser Bun, lo kol shlusi tir b'mikdash. See, not every shlus is mutter base of mikdash, because here the rabbanon do charasu. Tani will lo yikanech odem es splonis. A person should not rub a plaster on Shabbos. I'm sorry, you shouldn't smooth the plaster on Shabbos. Because, not smooth. You shouldn't rub off. This is talking about you have the plaster and it got moist because of your wound. It's got pus on it, blood on it. Don't take off the pus or the blood. Why? Because then you might smooth the plaster itself. And the smoothing of plaster is Isser Mimarech. So don't clean the plaster because you might come to smooth it out. Okay? You are marech b'Shabbos chayv Shabbos chayv chatas. I ask Gemara Vatani. Oh no, it's not a question. It's a raya. Vatani, we have a raya for this. Ichlika mimaton. If the bandage, the plaster somehow fell out towards the bottom. Machzira milamalon. So you put it back on top. If it fell out on top, you put it back on the bottom. I know exactly what the scenario is because I don't know exactly what these plasters look like. But somehow the plaster got misaligned. So you can put it back and readjust it. Okay? You reveal a little bit of plaster on one side and clean the wound. Mikan on the other side, or reveal a bit on the other side, but don't clean the plaster itself. Because then you might come to smooth the plaster, but smooth on Shabbos, you get a chatas. Okay. Time we learned. The same idea. You have a bandage got bloated, and there was not properly protected the wound. So you put it back in place the proper way on Shabbos. Rabbi Yaakov said, this is if it got a little bit bloated opposite the wound. Then you're allowed to put it back. And Tani, and this is we learned to the Brights a similar thing. Got fell out on the top, so on the bottom, put it back on top. Got fell out on the top, put it back on the bottom. But the main thing is it can't fall completely off the wound. It can get a little bit misaligned, but it has to still be keneged amako. As I said before, tafcha keneged amako. Only if it's opposite the wound, then it got misadjusted, so you can readjust it. But not if it's already not opposite the wound, then you can't readjust it. Okay? Because of fear smoothing, right? Or smearing. Rabbi Yezer Abu Moshe said, "Makosh nisrapa." It was nisrapa. So if already your wound is healed, nice lever tear, then you can put on a bandage. Why? Sheina el mashama. You're only preserving it. You're not healing it. So what's the problem? Not afraid you're going to smear. Rabbi Moshe Rabbi the time on the Rabbi the name of the Babylonian Rabbi said, "No, so agabi makom Shabbos, even if it's not healed. Sheina el mashama, because this is not talking about a plaster. It's talking about a bandage, and it's not a bandage. You're not going to smear." What about refuah? It's not a refuah. Why it's not refuah? It doesn't heal, just safeguards. Okay? Except for a bandage made out of grape leaves, shein refuah, because they heal. If you have the salve, the balm called pur, pur ikar. the root tapua. Tavu sagin, it's best. Kad isbe chamisho shiva tisha kuchim 5, 7, or 9 knots. Don't ask me because I don't even know what it is. But that's when it's best. But don't put water in it. Put water in it, you ruin it. No good anymore. Ain't called pasuk on your makkah. You can't say pasuk on the makkah. B'shem it as a shem Hashem. It's also to say the shem Hashem in order to heal a wound. V'ayin the koral yavruch aser, and those who make incantations that are psukim, such as put pasuk about yavruchim. Yavruchim is the Aramaic for dudoim. The dudoim of Reuven. They used to have a school to say that pasuk is also as well. Bo kra pasuk zal b'ni. Come and speak, read this pasuk for my son. Shumi's price, because he's frightened. Tail of Sefer Tefillin, or put on him a Sefer Tefillin, Shilshishin, in order to cure his insomnia. Also, it's also also. But I didn't learn. Omri Ushishim Koim B'Shalayim, say Tehillim in Yerushalayim. Rabbi Yehuda Kad Shalonivka, that's before he got hurt. Kad B'Shivka, once he got hurt, you can't say Tehillim anymore. Why? Because that saying is incantation. As a Tefillah, it's mutter. As an incantation, it's also. Ezu Shub Koim, what Tehillim is called Shir Shub Koim, literally the song of afflictions. 1 second. One second, let me just finish the Mishnah. Ezu Shir Shub Koim, what's a Shir Shub Koim? Marabut Sarai, B'chol HaMizbar. Marabut Sarai is one Shir Shub Koim. Yeshu B'sei Selin, Ad Kiyato Hashem Machsi, is all Shir Shub Koim. So high, we say them nowadays even after a person's sick. So it's a problem. Well, we say him as a tefillah, not as a refuah. Well, it's also as a refuah because the tefillah it's okay.